this is a little bit, this is what Father Meyer asked me to talk about. Like, I didn't choose this. So if you're wondering, like, whose choice was this, it was Father Meyer's. But I'm happy to do it. I want to tell you a little bit of a story about how I came to kind of be a presenter, I guess, sometimes, give talks on occasion on this. So I work in a Catholic high school the last 3 years. This year I'm actually in a parish a lot like St. Joseph's here. But the last 3 years I was at Cardinal Ritter High School in Indianapolis, right? So my first year of teaching. And I'm like ready, because I think everybody's going to be, I teach all seniors too, by the way. Okay, so the seniors are like, you know, any of you seniors? Okay. Well, the seniors, a lot of times in Catholic schools, the seniors are like all atheists, right? They tell, you know, they're like, they really like want to, you know, they're like, I'm going to really, I'm not just going to listen to Catholicism, like I'm going to really get in there and wrestle with it and find out, you know, if this is really what's going on with this Catholic stuff. So I was ready to go on a lot of the tough issues. Contraception, abortion, embryonic stem cell research, adult stem cell research, all of these things. I had really good PowerPoint, handouts, videos. Everybody was okay. And I was really surprised because a lot of the young people were like, okay, you know, I'd do the class on contraception. And everyone's just kind of like, yeah, okay, got it, sounds good. I'm like, really? Okay. Normally, because when I preach about it at church, people throw stuff at me. So you're good with it. Okay, good. Well, it was like towards the end of the year, and we get to the issue of homosexuality. Because we've been talking about vocations and marriage, and so then the question actually comes up, well, why does the church say that, you know, 2 guys can't marry, or 2 girls, or whatever? And so I kind of threw something together. I don't know why. I was busy. I had a track meet or something, you know, and I just threw it together that night. I didn't have as much time to prepare as I normally did, so I kind of just threw some stuff out there to that class about homosexuality. And unlike any other class that I had taught all year long, they were like basically looking at, they were wanting to fight me, like all hour and a half. Like, you're ridiculous. The Catholic Church is terrible. You all are blah, blah, blah. You know, the seniors were really like, and I'm like, I don't, okay, I'm not an expert on the topic, okay. I was really caught off guard by it. So, fast forward a year later. Now I'm like, okay, seniors are going to be upset about homosexuality, so we're going to spend some more time on it. I did a lot of research, dove in, really had a lot of, I put 3, instead of doing it in 1 class, we did it in 3. You know, we did a class on just what does the church teach about homosexuality, and then another class on what does the church say about homosexual marriage, and then another class on why does the church say that homosexual people should not be able to adopt children. Okay, so we had all 3 of these classes. Well, Father Meyer and I, so I teach my last homosexuality class. Father Meyer and I go on vacation to Rome. You know, it just happened. It wasn't like, just that's how the schedule worked out. Right before spring break, my last class was the 3rd of, it was like Homosexuality Week. You know, like Shark Week on the Discovery Channel? Well, it was like Homosexuality Week leading up to spring break at Cardinal Ritter with the seniors. So we leave, we go to Rome, and I'm over in Rome like day 4, hanging out. Father Meyer and I are running all over. He's like, have you ever been anywhere with Father Meyer? He power walks. So we were walking everywhere, and he was always just like 1,000 yards away, and I'm like back here like, Father. Okay, but anyways, that's beside the point. So about day 4, I didn't have a lot of internet access over there. It's Rome, you know, it's not like, it's like, you know, they don't have Wi-Fi everywhere like we do and stuff like that. So anyways, I hadn't been on the internet. Day 4, seminarian comes up to me where we're staying, and they're like, Father, you know, they were like, are you Father Hollowell or something like that? Are you from Indianapolis? I'm like, yeah, how's it going? They're like, you know you're everywhere right now, right? And it's like, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. He's like, so we go up to this one seminarian's room, and that friend of Father Meyer and I, and we're looking online, and we find something, and it's like, I get on my YouTube account, because I typically just carry a camera around when I give a talk, because somebody will watch if you film it. And so I'd put my videos, my classes on homosexuality online. Well, somebody had found them on YouTube, some homosexual blog or whatever. So my class had been passed around all over the Catholic, it went viral among the gay blogosphere. So I had like thousands thousands of comments on YouTube, okay, from people. My blog got bombarded with all these comments, thousands and thousands of them. My Cardinal Ritter email, our whole server, they just shut it down. They just said forget it. It was getting bombarded with emails to teachers and everybody else. There was this gigantic uproar of like just, and then all the Catholic people found out about it, and they're like, oh, watch this priest in Indianapolis get persecuted by the gay blogosphere. So then all these Catholic people start running in, and they're like, oh yeah, well Father Hollowell's doing fine, and my bishop got involved. There were lawyers involved. Everybody, the bishop and lawyers, everybody was like, Father Hollowell's just teaching what the Catechism says. It's church teaching. There's nothing wrong. There's no anger. There's no hatred there. But then, so that's year 2. And now what I'm doing is I've realized how big of an issue this is, both with students, my first year, and then with the larger society. Okay? How much hatred there is towards the Catholic Church because of this issue. Okay? And so I think that's why Father Meyer asked me to talk about it, because it's really important. And it's probably not if you said, hey, what are some great Saturday Night Live topics? Oh, homosexuality, that'll be awesome. I mean, but it is important, and it's so important actually that I'm making a documentary movie about it, working with a Catholic film company out of Indianapolis. We just said we'll see if because it needs to do a good film like that. We really need probably about $200,000. So we said let's try and do it for $70,000. Let's try and raise $70,000, and let's see if people will chip in or not. And we raised $70,000 in like 20 days. Other people that are out there in the real world, I think other Catholics are starting to sense that we are being hated and being attacked, and we may even be persecuted soon if we don't do a better job of explaining what we teach on this subject. Because right now no one knows. And they think that we are just like anybody else. Most people see no difference between Christianity, all the different Christian faiths. The Catholic Church has a very unique message about homosexuality that we need to do a lot better job of saying this is what we believe. But the problem is most of us don't know what we believe, and we'd rather not talk about uncomfortable things, so we just leave it alone. Okay? So, going to give you some things and that the Church teaches that might help you, I would imagine, in your high schools and in your schools, wherever you're at, when you head to college. If you tell people that you are Catholic, if you tell people you're Catholic at St. Joe's or St. Mary's, obviously no one's, and you're like, hey, I doubt homosexuality comes up at coffee and donuts anyways. But when you get out, all of a sudden what you're going to find is you're going to find a lot of resistance to this. And you need, I think, it's one of the biggest issues. I think if we don't do a better job of explaining what we teach on homosexuality, within a matter of years, we could be persecuted and thrown in jail as priests and Catholics if we continue and don't do a better job of teaching that. That's how big of an issue I think this is. Okay? So we're going to talk about it a little bit. And the Church's teaching is actually really a lot different than I think what a lot of people think we have to say about this. Okay, so we're going to look at, first of all, a couple things from Scripture really quick. We're going to start there. Leviticus. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. Such a thing is an abomination. That's an important word, abomination. Okay? That means like God can't even stand it. He can't even look at it. Okay? It's like God turns His face away from it. It's so bad. You shall not have carnal relations with an animal, defiling yourself with it, nor shall a woman set herself in front of an animal to mate with it. Such things are abhorrent. Okay? Wow, that's fun. To talk about. Leviticus 20. If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them shall be put to death for their abominable deed. They have forfeited their lives. Hey-o. Okay. How many of you have seen the Dan Savage clip? Anybody seen this? Okay, Dan Savage is a guy who goes around and talks about homosexuality. And for some reason he was invited to this big high school conference, and it kind of went viral. He calls out Christianity, and this is the kind of thing that you're going to hear in college and from other people when they find out that you're Catholic or that you're Christian. So we're going to watch this clip. There's a couple of cuss words in it, BS a couple of times, but I think I think it's worth hearing it. I don't think it's going to scandalize anyone, because this is how people will talk to you. and it raises some interesting points that we want to look at, if it will play. Let's see.
The Bible. We'll just talk about the Bible for a second. People often point out that they can't help it. They can't help with the anti-gay bullying. It says right there in Leviticus. It says right there in Timothy.
Okay, let's do this actually, because that's really important. So I'm going to, hold on, pull it up here, if I can find it. Let's see. Let me do this really quickly.
The Bible. We'll just talk about the Bible for a second. People often point out that they can't help it. They can't help with the anti-gay bullying. Because it says right there in Leviticus, it says right there in Timothy, it says right there in Romans that being gay is a problem. We learn to ignore the bullshit in the Bible about gay people. The same way we have learned to ignore the bullshit in the Bible about shellfish, about slavery, about dinner, about farming, about menstruation, about virginity, about masturbation. We ignore bullshit in the Bible about all sorts of things. The Bible is a radically pro-slavery document. Slave owners waved Bibles over their heads during the Civil War and justified it. The shortest book in the New Testament is a letter from Paul to a Christian slave owner about owning his Christian slave. And Paul doesn't say Christians don't own people. Paul talks about how Christians own people. We ignore what the Bible says about slavery because the Bible got slavery wrong. Sam Harris, in Letter to a Christian Nation, points out that the Bible got the easiest moral question that humanity has ever faced wrong. Slavery. What are the odds that the Bible got something as complicated as human sexuality wrong? 100%.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Savage, for that theological diatribe. But you will hear that. You will hear that. And that's why it went viral. And well, it went viral, first of all, too, because he was sort of picking on these high school kids. You know, that the people that you saw leaving, the video was messed up a little bit. I don't know what was going on, but you see the kids getting up and walking really fast. I mean, that was the video's fault, but they got up and left at this conference because the interesting thing is that he's talking about bullying, but he's bullying people right there, and that, you know, he's bullying Christians. We can talk about some of the other points that he raised, but let's just look at the thing. The main point that he's saying is that there are a bunch of crazy laws in the Bible. So why do we listen to the Bible? Well, let's look at them. Don't let cattle graze with other kinds of cattle. That's Leviticus 19. Don't have a variety of crops on the same field. That's Leviticus 19 as well. Don't wear clothes made of more than one fabric. Don't cut your hair. Don't shave. Any person who curses his mother must be killed. Have you ever done that? If a man cheats on his wife or vice versa, both the man and the woman must die. Psychics, wizards, and so on are to be stoned to death in Leviticus 20. Okay. Aren't a lot of the things that are condemned? So the question becomes, okay, well, so is homosexuality, and you're basing your teaching on homosexuality on the Bible. Well, if it's saying that these other things are serious problems, then why do you, if we don't stone anyone anymore for having multiple crops on the same field, if we don't stone anyone anymore for practicing being a psychic, then why do we still worry about people being homosexual? One of the things that we want to say about that is that the language that the Bible uses about homosexuality is a lot stronger than it is used about other things. It's also both in the Old and the New Testament in 4 different books. St. Paul does not mention in the New Testament, he doesn't mention farming. Okay? He does still talk about homosexuality being an abomination in the New Testament after Jesus. Okay? He doesn't talk about wearing one fabric in your shirt, but St. Paul does still talk about the idea that homosexuality, the act of homosexuality, is a serious problem and is a serious moral offense. So it's not just in the Leviticus, it's in lots of other things. The other thing we have going on in Leviticus is that we have these cultural laws and religious laws all mixed in. Some of the laws were like, hey, here's how you need to live at North Vernon, Jennings County, whatever it may be. You know, just local things that society needed to operate. So he's saying, hey, here's some laws about crops. Here's some laws about clothing. This will help you make your clothing. And then mixed in with that are, don't have sex with another man. Okay? They're all mixed in together. And so now people look back on that and they're like, oh, well, you can't eat shellfish, and so the Bible got that wrong. And the Bible got slavery wrong. Well, it's also really arrogant to look back on cultures and say, well, slavery was accepted in that way and it wasn't done the same way that it is now. Okay, that the way that it was done in the United States, you know, slavery had. Is it wrong? Yeah. Did the church eventually come out and help lead the charge against it? Yes. But to look back and say that, oh well, St. Paul should have gotten slavery right when it was totally different than we understand it is totally that's a ridiculous thing. So you have lots of things going on there with Dan Savage. But here's some things from St. Paul. Again, remember, this is not Leviticus. Leviticus is at the very beginning of the Bible. This is thousands of years later, after Jesus. This is St. Paul, one of the first apostles in the church. Neither basically goes through fornicators, idolaters, adulterers, practicing homosexuals, nor thieves will inherit the kingdom of God. That's pretty clear from St. Paul, 2,000 years after Leviticus. He's talking about here the Sodomites, murderers, the unchaste, kidnappers, liars, perjurers. Sodomites being people who have homosexual acts. Okay, this is in Romans, St. Paul, a different book of the Bible. Their females exchanged natural relations for unnatural, and the males likewise gave up natural with female and burned with lust for one another. Males did shameful things with males and thus received their own person the due penalty for their perversity. So we have, that's one thing that you need to understand when somebody asks you about Leviticus, right? What's going on? You guys talking about Leviticus? Well, St. Paul, it's all over the Bible. Homosexual acts are condemned all across Scripture, thousands of years apart, Old Testament and New Testament. Okay? Now, one of the myths that there is out there about about homosexuality as well is that there are two camps, okay? And this is also really important for you when you go to school at your high school or you go off to college or whatever. Okay, right now, most people will tell you there are two camps in this. There's the left, the liberal left over here, which is like Lady Gaga, okay? And you're born this way, okay? And you can't help but act on the way that you're born. And it's great, and we got Will and Grace and all the other TV shows over here, and how could we possibly tell someone to not act on their attractions? If they're attracted to another man, go ahead and have sex with that man, okay? Over here, we have the religious right, okay, which is the Bible-thumping people. How many of you have heard of the Westboro Baptists who go to military funerals and protest, right? They yell and scream at military personnel because they think that homosexuality is wrong and they think our country is somehow... So they go and yell at the funerals of dead soldiers because of homosexuality. So Bible thumpers, you know, the person who walk around and just like beat you to death with your Bible, with their Bible, right? Ah, Jesus said it, okay? So that is, in the mind of a guy like Dan Savage and lots of other people out there, that's it. Those are your two alternatives. Either you're out there and you're like, I loves me some Jesus, and I'm going to wash you in the blood of the Lamb and beat you to death with this Bible and stone you to death, and if you don't do this, what's in here? You're going to burn in the eternal fires of hell, and Satan's going to be there with you, and then everyone else is over here is like, yeah, hey, it's okay, everyone have gay sex or animals or people or whoever, whatever you want to do, it's great, it's okay. Those are the two alternatives in the mind of most people. Bible thumper Lady Gaga, born this way. Hey, it's all great. Let's go clubbing. Let's freak on each other. Let's dance. Let's have sex. Boom. Okay? There we go. That is the two camps that most people think of. And so when they find out, if somebody finds out in college or at your high school or whatever that you're Catholic, they're like, Bible thumper. Go on over there. We know that you are not enlightened like us over here. You don't understand. You still cling to old religious traditional things. And so you're over here in the Bible thumper category. And you are an idiot, is basically what people will say to you. Okay? Anybody ever had any experience being lumped in with any of that? Okay? Yep. Okay. I know I certainly have. And most of the people that kind of spread my classes around the blogosphere did not watch the classes. Okay? They were like, watch a dude in a freaky dress indoctrinate teenagers, to homosexuality or Catholic bigotry and all these other things. They didn't even watch the class. They didn't even listen to what was being said. They just said, Bible thumper, weird dress, collar, Bible, church, hates homosexuals. Okay, over here in the bad camp. That is the myth, okay, that there are these two camps. And there's one of the people that we're trying to interview in our documentary, we haven't gotten a hold of her yet, but she wrote an essay, and this is what I've preached on homosexuality and talked about it once. The second time I taught, I used her essay, and she said something really interesting. She is a Catholic, and she's written an essay. Her name is Eve Tushnet. And she is a Catholic who lives and experiences same-sex attraction. So that immediately blows people's minds. They're like, how can you do that? If you're same-sex attracted or you're homosexual, you're over here in the Lady Gaga camp. How can you possibly still have this superstitious, crazy religion, the Catholic Church? So she's like standing there in the middle, and she's like, I have same-sex attraction, but I'm also a Catholic. She said, what's interesting is that the people over here think that I can't do anything but have sex with other people because I have the attractions. And the religious right people over here say that simply because I have attractions, I'm burning in hell. I'm going to die and go to hell. And they're like, she says the Catholic Church is the one place where she hears the truth about who she is and about her condition, her life, her way of life. She said that the Catholic Church is the only place that is really speaking the truth on this topic. And we are not in this camp. And we're going to talk about why not. We're definitely not over here. I mean, we're not in Lady Gaga camp, right? But we're also not in, with my Bible till you're dead, okay? All right. So, the Bible is obviously against homosexuality and homosexual acts, but what does the church have to say? We're going to look at that. How could a woman possibly find comfort, guidance, and enjoy being a Catholic who also lives with and experiences homosexual same-sex attraction, whatever phrase you want to call that? So we're going to look. What does the church say? And this is again, what comforts this woman and other people like her. We interviewed, I was up in Detroit last Friday night, we interviewed her on Friday morning. Another lady who's in the same situation. Catholic, experiences same-sex attraction, loves Catholicism, loves her Catholic faith. So how can that happen? Let's look and see what the church says. Okay, this is from the Catechism. Okay, homosexuality's psychological genesis remains largely unexplained. That is the church saying we don't necessarily know all the time where homosexual attractions come from. That is not what Lady Gaga and other people over here are saying. They will not admit that they do not fully understand. They just say you're born that way and it's there so that don't worry about it. Okay, the church is saying, okay, look, there's things there that we don't there is no complete study. We don't exactly understand as humanity where some of our attractions come from. So that's a real honest a thing to admit right up front. Okay? Now, basing itself on Scripture, the Bible, okay, which presents homosexual acts, this is really important, okay, as acts of grave depravity, tradition has always declared that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. They are contrary to the natural law. They close the sexual act to the gift of life. Okay? a lot of stuff there, but let's look at the key thing here. This is the key distinction that the church makes that no one else makes. If you don't remember anything else tonight, that's okay, first of all right? But remember this, okay? And it's really easy because attraction and action are very similar looking words, but they have a difference that is crucial, very crucial, okay? Lady Gaga camp makes no distinction between the homosexual attraction that one experiences and the sex, the homosexual sex. There is no distinction, okay? Over here, there's no distinction either in the religious right. Why? Because they're telling people as soon as you have the attraction, you're a sinner that's going to burn in the flame fires of hell with Satan. Amen, okay? The church is saying what we say all the time. Hey, everybody, there's a difference between attraction, having an attraction to something, and acting on it. Neither camp says that. Neither camp. But the church does. The church says there's a big difference. And that's important not just for people that are living with homosexual attraction or same-sex attraction. That's important for us as Catholics in general. We make that same distinction about heterosexuals. Right? Is there a difference between, not that I ever did this in church, but when you're young and your mind wanders and you might be, and you're at church but you see Susie and you're like, I think Susie's really hot. And then all of a sudden Father's like going on and on up at there at the ambo like he always does. And now you're imagining like walking on the beach with Susie, or maybe even watching the sunset with Susie, or maybe even kissing Susie or something along those lines, right? Okay. Is that bad? Well, yeah. If I'm choosing that, then that's not good. That's lust. Okay? That's a sin. But is that the same as having sex with Susie? No. There's a difference. There's a difference there. Okay? That's obvious, right? Well, it's the same thing. The church is saying, look, that same thing applies to homosexuality. There is a huge difference between having an attraction to, if you're a guy, another guy, or if you're a woman, another woman, and having sex with that person. Okay? And that's a distinction that nobody else makes. They're all saying in the religious right, a lot of the Protestant denominations are saying, as soon as you have a homosexual attraction, hi, I'm Protestant preacher Paul, okay? You have a homosexual attraction, you're all going to burn in hell. Well, if I am, then I'm like, well, geez, if I'm listening to that and I have a homosexual attraction, I'm like, well, I might as well go have sex. I might as well have the homosexual sex because I've already experienced the attraction. But Protestant preacher Paul already said, I'm already burning in hell anyway. Because I've already had the attraction. The Catholic Church comes over and is like, whoa. Thinking about eating 20 chocolate bars and eating 20 chocolate bars are very different things. Okay? I have lots of attractions. Thinking about, I'll admit, I just got finished, I'm kind of caught up on Downton Abbey. It's a series. My sister's got me turned on. I don't know where you're at with that. Whatever TV series you watch. Okay, there's a difference between sitting around and saying, you know what, I'd like to watch about 5 hours of that show, and watching 5 hours of a show. Okay? There's whatever the thing is, there is a difference. In the church, that's why the lady that I interviewed last week and the lady Eve that wrote that article, that's why they're all saying, look, the only place that's talking any sense is the Catholic Church. They're the only ones. Lady Gaga is saying if you have a homosexual attraction, you can't help but have sex. And they're also saying that about all of you that have heterosexual attractions. If you got heterosexual attraction and you try to suppress that, they're all telling you, what a freak. You're going to just explode from like sexual explosion. You try to keep that in, they're all going to tell you, like, you try to keep that in, and you have a heterosexual attraction, you're attracted to the opposite sex. If you don't have sex with with lots of people, my goodness, you're going to become an absolute nut show. Okay? You are going to be a psycho. I mean, that's what they're telling us. And they're saying the same thing to people that have homosexual attraction. The Catholic Church is like, whoa, A, there's a difference. B, you're not going to die by not acting on an attraction. In fact, Catholicism says all of the attractions that we experience, if we don't have to act on them. That's the, and that, again, uniquely Catholic. We have the answer that when people sit down and listen to us, they say, you know what? That speaks to me. I like that. But again, nobody's listening to us because they're all like, religious freaks, they're Bible thumpers. Okay? The Church distinguishes between homosexual attractions and homosexual actions. It also distinguishes between heterosexual attractions and heterosexual actions. We just talked about that. Lusting after Susie, while not ideal, is not the same as me having sex with Susie. And me lusting after Dave is not the same as Dave and I having sex. And the Catholic Church is the only place where you're going to hear that, basically. Okay? That is really important. Attractions and actions are different. And that is what, if you don't remember anything else, take that away from today. Okay? So, another thing, let's look at, so does, Dan Savage talks about how he was bullied. Okay, and other people are bullied because of their homosexual attractions, whether they're in high school or grade school or whatever. This is from the Church. Devoted ministers should have the confidence that they are faithfully following the will of the Lord by encouraging the homosexual person to lead a chaste life and by affirming that person's God-given dignity and worth. That's the Church telling priests. When people come to you and they're struggling with this, affirm their dignity, their God-given dignity, and their worth. If somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm struggling with homosexual attractions, like, oh, gross. Well, you're not, go get help. Okay, no. Affirm that person's God-given dignity and worth. The Catholic Church is like the only one that says, just chill out. Like, okay, you got an attraction. Calm down. All right? You got an attraction to something? You got an attraction to Susie? Okay, chill out. You're not going to have to act on it. You don't have to act, just of course you got an attraction. It's okay, just breathe. Okay? You got an attraction to somebody of the same sex? Okay, just calm down. Everyone else is over here, they're like, oh, we got to throw you in hell. And over here, they're like, oh, you got to go have sex with that person. And just breathe. Okay? Just calm down and breathe for a second. If you have a homosexual attraction or a heterosexual attraction or an attraction to chocolate or whatever, just take a breath. It's okay. You're still a person. You have God-given dignity. You have worth. You're just like everyone else. The attractions that you experience, okay, that's all right. All right, and we're going to get to that in just a second. The number of men and women who have deep-seated homosexual tendencies, this is the Catechism again, is not negligible. This inclination, which is objectively disordered, constitutes for most of them a trial. They must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. That's the Catholic Church's message. Again, it's saying if they have a homosexual attraction, just chill out. You don't have to yell at them. It's the same as somebody. Now, we're going to talk here in just a second about, okay, this is the one thing that gets people upset about what the Church says. Okay? The Church does say that if you have a homosexual inclination or an attraction, if you are a guy attracted to Dave, then that attraction is objectively disordered. That means black and white. Objectively means black and white. There's no gray area here. They're saying it is disordered. To have an attraction to Dave is disordered. Now, if I could change one word in the Catechism, as I've said, I would probably use a different word there because that, when you hear disorder, what do you think? When you hear disordered, what comes to mind? Throw some stuff out, anybody. Disordered. What? It's wrong. Okay, what else? Very good. Other? Messed up. What's that? Crazy. Very good. Yeah. Other things? Unorganized. Yeah, very good. Chaos. Yep. I think a lot of times when we hear disorder, we think mental illness kind of a thing. Like, you know, just really, we think, but that is, okay, I'm going to sound like a Catholic school grammar teacher, I guess that's okay. Disordered, what kind of, is this a noun or an adjective? Disordered. It's an adjective, absolutely. Okay? What is this? If it's disorder, and I'm still not covering up the E and the D. I don't know how to do that. I guess I'd have to go. This is going to be really hard. What's that? What's disorder? Is that an adjective or a noun? Is disorder an adjective or a noun? It's a noun. The church is not saying, and this is really key, because a lot of people read that and they're like, oh, see, the church, there you go. They think having an attraction, having a homosexual attraction, then you've got a condition. You're a freak, just like the Bible thumpers say. Okay? And you're a mental patient, and we should all, you know, just like straitjacket because you have a disorder. Does the church say you have a disorder? Negative. It says it is disordered. What does disordered mean? And the church says that things are disordered. It says lots of things are disordered. The church says homosexual attractions are disordered, not a disorder. Okay? And there are lots of attractions that are disordered. Let's see, does this... Okay, I'll go back to this. It's not letting me go back. There we go. Okay. The church is saying, okay, here's what this means. When we say a homosexual attraction is disordered, and we're telling, you know, this woman or this guy is like, I have a homosexual attraction. The church is like, okay, that homosexual attraction is disordered. It's not saying you are disordered, you are a freak show. It's saying that that attraction is disordered. What it means is ordered to means like pointing in the direction of. So my heterosexual attraction to Susie is ordered towards marriage. Okay? It is ordered towards marriage and having children. So in that sense, a heterosexual attraction is not disordered because it's going in this, it's kind of like an arrow and it's heading in the right direction. Whereas if I have a homosexual attraction, that is not ordered towards something right. It's not heading in the right direction. Does that make sense? Okay, that's all the church is saying. Okay? Me having a desire for 20 chocolate bars is disordered. Because if I eat 20 chocolate bars, that's not going in the right direction either. That's in the wrong direction. That's disordered. Having a desire to have lots of material wealth, disordered. It's disordered. Okay? It's not a disorder. You see the difference? So you're going to have to fight somebody on that probably. If they find out you're Catholic and you really learn your faith, they're going to be like, oh, but the Catholic Church says it's a disorder. No, we say it's disordered. And we say lots of things are disordered. Okay? Me as a priest having lust for someone is not properly, or it is disordered. If I have a lust for a woman in my heart, it's not properly ordered because a priest having sex with a woman is not properly, that's not good. That lands in a bad spot. Okay? So that's disordered too. So I want to clarify that. The church is not here saying, oh, freak show, disorder, you got to get you fixed. No, it's saying, look, that attraction is not pointing towards something good. Well, duh, there are a lot of attractions that aren't pointing towards something good and are actually pointing towards something bad. And the homosexual attraction is that. It's not pointing in the proper direction. Okay? The church does not condemn homosexual attraction, nor does it condemn those who experience the attractions. The first response should be, of course, compassion, and so and welcoming, and just letting a person talk. Okay, the attraction is not a sin. Let me stop there and first of all see if there are any questions. I know like most people are probably not like, hey, I'd love to talk about that. But are there anything that has not the questions that come up for you? Okay. Okay. If you do, just stop and just say, hey, I got something for you. Okay. Is this the worst Saturday Night Live ever? Okay. All right. That was my fear for a minute. Okay. All right. Again, remember, if you don't like it, remember who picked the topic, Father Meyer. Okay? Right? I'm just doing what he told me to do. Because he said if I didn't, he'd beat me up. The church does condemn people acting on homosexual attraction. But guess who else it condemns? People acting on heterosexual attraction. In the sense of saying that's a sin. Okay? The church is saying, yeah, homosexual sex, sin. Heterosexual sex outside of the context of marriage, sin. Eating 20 candy bars, sin. Okay? Whatever it is, whatever the thing is, there's lots of things that the church says is a sin. Okay? Acting on them is the problem. Are there questions or anything that comes up? We got through it in time. Okay. There's a lot there. If you ever have a question about it later, or you can send me an email, or I'm on Facebook and Twitter if you like that. I have a blog. If you want to go back and watch the classes that I taught that became so popular and went viral in the wrong places,